We don't have a functioning majority. When you can only lose one vote, if one person has a different idea, we don't.
So it's like a coalition government?
No, we're trying to prevent that. We're trying to keep the Republicans working together, and we've gotten better policy, better process, and we're getting things done. But it's very difficult when very individualistic, individual-minded Republicans don't want to move together as a bloc. So we're
Who's
moving
that, Marjorie Taylor Greene?
I'm not going to name any names, Jesse. You know who they are.
You have nightmares about her?
No, I don't. I don't think about her at all.
Speaker Mike Johnson might be dropping the meek and polite act after months of Marjorie Taylor Greene coming for him. He and Jesse Waters are about 2 seconds from just saying F Marge and everything that she stands for. There's actually another Republican in the Senate, Tom Tillis, and he's about 1 second from it.
I think she's uninformed. She is a total waste of time. She is a horrible leader. She is dragging our brand down. She, not the Democrats, are the biggest risk to us getting back to a majority.
It makes sense, especially since her focusing in on Johnson has gotten even more direct since he worked across the aisle to pass foreign aid to funding Ukraine. She cites any reason that she can for her opposition, except for the most obvious, her blatant desire to carry Vladimir Putin's propaganda to the floor of Congress, even when her frail arguments are taken down in real time, like the time Professor Timothy Snyder straightened her out over her claims of Nazis running around and controlling Ukraine.
So when you want to talk about misinformation, Mr. Snyder, you might actually look a little closer to American media if you don't like what they're saying. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, does he have the opportunity to respond to the gentlelady?
Sure.
Yeah.
I didn't ask him a question,
her
Mr.
time's
Raskin.
expired.
You asked multiple questions.
On the question of Nazis, I've written 2 books as a historian about Nazis and the Holocaust. On the question of Ukrainian nationalism, I am the leading scholar of that subject in North America and have been writing about it for 20 years. If the chamber is interested in the degree of far-right participation in Ukrainian politics, you can be assured that no far-right party has ever crossed 3% in Ukrainian election. So, of course, there are bad people in every country, but by any comparative standard is a very small phenomenon. In Russia, on the other hand, the army includes openly Nazi formations, such as Rushich. The government itself is fascist in character, and it is carrying out a war which includes deportation of children by the tens of thousands, the open intention of destroying a state, as well as mass torture. So if we're looking for fascism, and if there is anyone who is sincerely concerned about halting fascism or racism, you would wish to halt Russia.
Real fast, you notice how badly she and James Comer wanted to avoid that professor having a minute to dismantle her claims about Nazis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, does he have the opportunity to respond to the gentlelady?
Sure.
Yeah.
I didn't ask him a question,
her
Mr.
time's
Raskin.
expired.
You asked multiple questions.
She was like, I didn't ask him a question. Don't let him respond to my misinformation. That was my only argument. He's going to ruin everything. We saw Senator Tillis take Representative Greene down, but Mitch McConnell even made his way to a podium to criticize the other big factor in swaying conservatives' opinions on the Russian invasion.
You've been probably one of the most ardent backers of Ukraine in the Senate here, but what took so long to get some of these other 8 Republicans persuaded to your position here? Was it the overall nature of this bill?
Well, that's a good question. You already know the answer. I think the demonization of Ukraine began by Tucker Carlson, who, in my opinion, ended up where he should have been all along, which is interviewing Vladimir Putin. And so he had an enormous audience, which convinced a lot of rank-and-file Republicans that maybe this was a mistake. I think the former president had sort of mixed views on it. Our nominee for president didn't seem to want us to do anything at all. That took months to work our way through it.
It's a little surprising Mitch McConnell called out Tucker by name, considering his measured approach when dealing with opposition coming from fellow Republicans specifically. Mitch even dropped an insult on him about interviewing Putin. He also kind of mentioned Trump's part in tilting the scales, but he's still too cowardly to actually call him out, even though he's bailing at the end of his term to avoid accountability for actually empowering Trump to rule over the party like this. But the Tucker factor is too obvious not to mention, so he went and took that one.
The West started the war, and we used force in order to stop it.
If there is any single American who deserves scorn and, yes, blame for the invasion of Ukraine, it would be Joe Biden.
The Ukrainian people have become hostages of their Western masters.
Ukraine is not a democracy. It's a client state of the Biden administration.
The U.S. were training on the future theater of military actions by owning biological laboratories in Ukraine.
Military biological programs are under development in Ukraine, financed by the U.S. Defense Ministry.
Western countries were setting military bases on our border.
The Russians don't want American missiles on their border. They don't want a hostile government next door.
NATO took specific actions, expansions to our borders.
Getting Ukraine to join NATO was the key to inciting war with Russia.
The elites of the West are not hiding their goals. They are trying to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia.
The Biden administration wanted all along a regime change war against Russia.
The initiators of the sanctions are punishing themselves.
So it's not Vladimir Putin who's getting punished, it's American citizens. It's you.
The West provoked the growth of prices in their own countries, collapse of energy sector.
Gas prices are already the highest they have ever been in history. So will the price of natural gas and the price of electricity and food and everything else you buy. I think we should probably take the side of Russia if we have to choose between Russia and Ukraine. That is my view. We're on Putin's side.
Especially after his trip to Russia to kiss the ring, everyone's clear on where Tucker Carlson stands and why. It's just weird that he somehow thinks helping prop up Putin will help Donald Trump regain unprecedented power here with another. But when politicians regularly advocate for and pass laws that directly fly in the face of what the vast majority of Americans want, like when they pass total abortion bans and unpopular tax cuts that benefit the rich folks that paid officials enough to do them, Tucker wasn't complaining about it being a monarchy. I guess they're more comfortable with that when their guy is the one with total control.
They want to call you a dictator. Do you in any way have any plans whatsoever, if reelected president, to abuse power, to break the law, to use the government to go after people?
You mean like they're using right now? So, in the history of our country, he said that I want to be a dictator. I didn't say that. I said I want to be a dictator for one day.
In order to remedy this sort of great imbalance or this usurpation of the legislative and judicial branches over the executive branch, which has become the Democratic branch with a small d, and thus has been rendered utterly toothless in the sense that the president himself has power over the government. The only remedy for this wrong is to put the president entirely in charge of the government. And that essentially means that the executive branch, far from being checked and balanced in a way that does not work and has left the executive branch not checked and balanced, but simply hogtied and held hostage, is to render the executive branch completely unilateral.
That weird guy at the end is a fascist-minded blogger that has inspired people like J.D. Vance and Blake Masters to promote his ideals for a monarchist to take over. And unsurprisingly, Blake Masters has been praised by Tucker Carlson as the future of the party. A group of guys that share similar views of supporting Donald Trump and the idea of radically expanding executive power. We've all seen how Trump bows to Putin, so his supporters follow suit, which might be why they oppose helping Ukraine fight back. But one of the elements Mike Johnson slipped into the funding was actually an idea that Trump came up with.
There's a loan component to it. This would not have passed without Donald Trump. I want to thank the House Speaker and Hakeem Jeffries working together in a bipartisan fashion to give weapons to Ukraine to fight a fight that matters to us. And President Trump has created a loan component to this package that gives us leverage down the road.
Lindsey Graham's knee-jerk response to always give the honor and glory to Trump is always readily available. But he did float the plan of a loan that Johnson included in the negotiated bill. So how do the Trump sycophants separate their opposition to Ukraine from their support of Trump when his idea helped get the funding passed?
60 billion with a B. They want to give him 60 billion more. And I said, wait a minute, do it this way. Loan them the money. If they can make it, they pay us back. If they can't make it, they don't have to pay us back. Loan them the money. Put it as a form of a loan. Why should you just hand it over to them? Do it as a form of a loan.